Someone asks you what you are doing for your birthday, and you say the thing that apparently breaks people's brains. Nothing. It's just another day. And suddenly, you are the problem. Your friends exchange a look. Your mom calls twice. Someone who has known you for 6 months decides you must be going through something. Meanwhile, you are sitting there completely fine, wondering why a date on a calendar is apparently a personality test you did not sign up for. You have watched people cry at birthday parties. You have watched grown adults sulk because not enough people reacted to their Instagram post before noon. You have sat through entire dinner conversations about whether 32 deserves a bigger celebration than 31, and you just don't get it. Here is what nobody is saying out loud. The fact that you don't need a birthday to feel significant is not a red flag. It might be one of the most psychologically sophisticated things a person can do. But, and this is important, it might also be something else entirely. Something quieter. Something worth looking at honestly. By the end of this video, you are going to understand the 3 completely different types of people who treat their birthday like a normal day, and why 2 of them are doing something powerful, while 1 of them might be hiding something they have never fully admitted to themselves. We're also going to get into the science behind why your brain might have quietly decided that hope is more dangerous than indifference, and what that actually costs you. And the 3rd type, the one that hits differently, I'm saving that one for last, because if that one is you already know.
You have probably done this. Your birthday shows up on the calendar, and your first instinct is not excitement. It is not dread either. It's just a kind of neutral acknowledgement, like checking the weather. Noted, moving on. And here's the thing. The people around you do not understand that neutrality. To them, a birthday without a fuss means something must be wrong. It means you're sad, or lonely, or worse, that they failed you somehow. But you are not performing stoicism. You are not secretly devastated. You are just here, present, on your birthday the same way you are present on every other day. And for some reason, that is the most confusing thing you could possibly be. Sound familiar? Good, because the psychology behind why you do this is more interesting than anyone has ever given you credit for. Let's start with the group that nobody wants to talk about first, because this one requires honesty. In 1967, psychologist Martin Seligman ran a now famous study and discovered something he called learned helplessness. In plain English, when a person experiences repeated disappointment with no power to change the outcome, the brain eventually stops expecting anything good. Not because the person is weak, because the brain is protecting them from the cost of hoping. And here's where birthdays become a psychological pressure point. Neuroscientists have shown that your dopamine system, the brain's reward and motivation engine, doesn't just respond to good things happening. It responds to the gap between what you expected and what you actually got. So imagine you're 8 years old. You built an entire world in your head around this day. The people who would show up, the way it would feel to be the center of something good, and then the day arrives and it is quiet, or it's forgotten, or it's smaller than the version you imagined by a distance that somehow feels enormous. And you didn't cry, not where anyone could see. You just quietly updated the file. Expect less next year. And the year after that, a little less again, until eventually the brain stopped filing a prediction for this day at all, because a prediction you never make is a disappointment you never have to feel. So when someone says, "It's just another day," with a completely straight face, that sentence didn't come from nowhere. It was assembled, quietly, over years of adjusting expectations downward until the expectation disappeared entirely. That's not coldness. That's the brain's version of self-preservation. And the fact that they carry it so calmly doesn't mean it cost them nothing. It means they paid the price so long ago, they stopped noticing the bill. But that's only the first group, and honestly, it's the one that gets the most sympathy. The second group is where it starts getting a little more interesting and a little more relatable than most people want to admit. There's a second group of people who treat their birthday like a Tuesday, and these people are not carrying quiet scars. They are not suppressing anything. They are not being brave. They're just genuinely fine. Psychologists Richard Ryan and Edward Deci spent decades studying what they called self-determination theory. In plain English, the research found that the most psychologically grounded people are the ones whose sense of worth comes from the inside, not from events, not from rituals, not from how many people remembered to send a voice note before 9 a.m. These are the people who already solve the equation that most people spend decades chasing: how to feel whole without needing external proof of it. Researcher Philip Brickman called the trap these people escaped the hedonic treadmill, that relentless cycle where you chase the next celebration, the next milestone, the next big moment, and it feels good for a day, maybe two, and then the baseline resets, and you're already looking toward the next thing. People in this group stepped off that treadmill. They're not waiting for a calendar date to give them permission to feel valued. They already know they are. And here's the thing that makes other people uncomfortable. When you don't need the song, the cake, and the group chat explosion, it challenges the assumption that everybody needs the same things, that celebration is a universal language, that wanting to be fussed over on your birthday is just what humans do. But the research says otherwise, and these people figured it out the quiet way, by just already knowing they matter on a random Wednesday with no audience. But here's where this video earns its title, because the third group, this is the one most birthday psychology content never goes near, and it's the most important one.
Be honest with yourself right now. Have you ever dismissed your own birthday? Told everyone it was fine, it was nothing, you didn't need anything, while some quiet, almost invisible part of you waited to see what people would do anyway? Not because you needed a party, but because some part of you still wanted proof, that someone remembered without a reminder, that someone chose you on the day without being asked. And when it did not happen, you said it was fine, and you meant it, and you also didn't. Psychologist Jennifer Crocker at the University of Michigan studied something called contingencies of self-worth. In plain English, some people opt out of wanting things, not because they don't want them, but because wanting them and not getting them would confirm something they already quietly believe about themselves. That they are not quite worth making a fuss over. That the people who love them have other priorities. That if they stop making it easy for people to celebrate them and nobody does it anyway, they will finally have the answer they have been afraid to ask for directly. So they protect themselves by opting out first. They say they don't need it before anyone has the chance to prove that they might be right. That is not indifference. That is a very old, very practiced form of self-protection. You see this pattern written everywhere in culture once you know what to look for. Think about every person you have ever seen online who posts on their birthday, "I don't really do birthdays, but since you're asking," followed by a very detailed post about their birthday. That is not indifference performing itself. That is someone trying to preempt disappointment while still leaving the door open just enough for someone to walk through it. Or think about Ted Lasso, the show that broke everybody open, and the way the most emotionally defended characters were always the ones who insisted they didn't need anything, right up until the moment someone gave it to them anyway, and they completely fell apart. Because it is not that they didn't need it, it is that they stopped believing it was available to them. So what do you actually do with all of this? I'm not going to tell you to throw yourself a party. I'm not going to suggest you post a smiling photo and pretend the whole thing feels natural. What I am going to suggest is one question. Just one. Is my indifference coming from fullness or from somewhere I stopped letting myself look? Because if it is coming from fullness, if you genuinely feel whole on a Tuesday with no audience, then you have figured out something most people spend their entire lives chasing. And that deserves to be respected, not fixed. But if there's a quiet part of you that has been waiting for years for someone to just show up without being asked, that part deserves honesty. Not a party, honesty.
Because the 8-year-old who adjusted their expectations downward year by year, quietly, without making a scene, did not stop wanting to feel special. They just stopped admitting it. And that kid is still in there, and they are still keeping score in the way only quietly disappointed people know how to keep score. Remember the person at the beginning of this video, the one who said, "It's just another day," and genuinely meant it, while everyone around them treated that answer like a confession of something broken. Here's what we know now. They might be one of the most psychologically grounded people in the room, someone who figured out how to feel whole without performance, and that is genuinely rare. Or they might be someone who built a very calm, very convincing layer of indifference over a wound that never got the acknowledgement it needed. Both of those people deserve to be seen, not with a cake, with honesty. And maybe that's the real gift, not the party, not the song, not the notifications, but someone finally telling you that either way, whether you need it or not, whether you admit it or not, you always were worth the fuss. If any part of this video landed somewhere specific, drop a quiet comment below. Not a long one, just tell me which group you recognized yourself in. Group 1, 2, or 3. No explanation needed. Because someone else is going to scroll those comments on their birthday, alone, completely fine about it, and wondering if anyone else has ever felt exactly like this. And when they see your number, they will know the answer. The next video on this channel goes somewhere even more specific. It's about the people who give endlessly to everyone around them and somehow always end up last on their own list. Same quiet pattern, even more recognizable. Subscribe so it finds you when it's ready. It was made for you too.